Okay, hi, I'm Sharon, and I come up here for the knitting group that's usually here on Friday afternoons. And I'm just going to show you a few things that stitches, and then I'm knitting, and then I'll pick up some crocheting and show you that also. I'm going backwards with that one. This is a hat I'm working on. These are circular needles, and you just keep going around and around and around. So this is just a knit stitch. Get myself in my right direction here. Because I don't want to go backwards. Because this is a lot of hat to take out if I mess up. So you're just going to be doing, I go fast. You just put your needle behind and go through and bring it through. And that's just the knit stitch. I'm probably going to have to go back to the ball of yarn here. I've got the other one so I can show you some different stitches, because that's just, you know, you do your hat, you do your, this is a purl 1, purl 2, knit 2. And so that gives you your ribbing on your hat. And a finished hat, believe it or not, looks like this. Even at the top, it's cute, goes all the way around. And so when you're doing it on circular needles, you don't have to sew the seam together when you're done. And it's a lot easier to make hats, believe it or not, since this COVID thing. This is probably hat number 80 I'm working on. Okay, we'll go back to this one. We'll just start off with knit. Do it this way. This is the old way. This is, I'll show you this stitch here. You just start with 5 stitches. I do this pattern a little bit different than other people do, but so I start with more stitches. Then you're going to knit 3. Like I said, I know I knit fast, so I have trouble slowing down. Then you're going to loop over. You take it, when you do a loop over, you just take your yarn and bring it around. This pattern I usually do with a cotton yarn, but it's easier to show you with this. 5. Okay, so we're going to knit 3. Let me pull it off. That's for your first stitch. Up and over, it's 2, 3. Loop over, and then knit your last 2. If I can do this, I'm all clumsy today. And then you just switch your needles, and you're going to go from the other side. So you always, with this pattern, like I said, it's basically it's a dishcloth when you're done. You knit 3. Yarn over, and then you knit your last 3, and that adds a stitch in there, so it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you go. Okay, but that's a knit. That's just your basic knit, and it gives you a pattern where you've got a hole around the edge of your washcloth. It looks really cute, but I'm just going to show you some different stitches. This is a purl. A purl, you go from, instead of going through like you do with a knit, go through that way, you're going to go through backwards from the front side. And you do those. So this becomes a knit, a purl, which gives your stitches when you're done with that, the back side of the front side of your thing, the little knots are on the front side. When you're doing a knit, they're all on the same side. So if you want, like this pattern, keep going back and forth. This is a knit, so all the knots are on the back side of the pattern, and the smooth side is on the front side. Like I said, when you're doing the knit 2, purl 2, you got the 2 stitches that are on the front, and then your back, it shows the backwards on the other 2. So that's what gives you the ribbing on the hats. I'll just do a regular knit here for a stitch or 2. And then a decrease, you would take your needles and go through, these are not going to cooperate. I'm used to thinner needles again. Go through 2 stitches. So you got 2 stitches, and then you go through that way, and you've decreased a stitch. And when you increase, you go over and you knit, and then instead of pulling that needle, that one off, you go back and pick this stitch back up off of your front needle, and that increases your stitches. So knitting is a slow process. It takes a lot of work to get one item done, but I can show you. That's knitting. This is what a crochet looks like. This is a washcloth, a wash rag. I call it a dish rag. Some people call it a wash rag. But people don't like me to say rag because it's not a rag. But you know. This is my little catch-all of everything. I have extra crochet hooks. I actually have medical tape in here. And that's in there because after a while when you're knitting, my finger gets sore, so I wrap it with a little bit of tape. Protects the finger. Good idea. So there's all sorts of different things. So this is the cotton yarn. I get it on the cones. And when you start that, you just do your loop through. So you make a little knot through there. And then the first couple of stitches you do, I'm going to set this down on the floor. It's easier to work with. You do a chain. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's what a chain looks like. And then when you start the next row, this is a single, so I'm going to skip this first stitch here and go into the next one. And then you pull it through, and then you go through both stitches. So that's a single crochet. Go along the row doing that. The washcloth that I made is done with a double crochet, and it's done differently because you start with a loop instead of just a chain. Well, you start with the chain and then you loop it to make a circle, and I can show you that too. But that's what a single looks like. I know it's not very much there, it's hard to see. And then when you get to the end, because it's a single, you got to chain 1 and turn your work and go through the first hole. And that's how you turn on a single crochet. Just you can go through. There's two. It looks like 2 pieces of yarn right here, and that's where you go through. You go through the whole thing, front to back. So you have the 2 sitting there, and come back through. Or you can do what they call. You can go through the middle of it, right through. You can go through the middle of the chain and pick up just one of the loops, and that will give you a different pattern. You can go because the stitches, it'll call for to pick up the back loop or the front loop, and it changes the pattern of your stitch. So it leaves a ridge. See, the first ones here are all together. And then I started with the back loop, it leaves a ridge. So it gives you a pattern. My problem is I always have trouble getting that last one in there, picking it up, because I have a tendency to crochet tight. And then you would do the same thing. You would do a single and then turn and go. Now I'm going to do 2 chains and go through. Then this is a double crochet. You're going to loop over your needle, go in, go through 2, and then go through the last 2. Wrap your yarn, go through. There's so many different stitches that you can do with crochet and knitting, but the basics are, these are the basic stitches here. And then the next one is you have a triple, so you're going to loop over twice, go through, crochet 2, and then go through 2. And it gives you a longer stitch. That's the triple, and that's the double. And then of course the singles are down here, they're closer together. Like I said, this is done with a double crochet. I'm going to take this out, and then I'm going to show you how to start one of these, because this is done with a circular type one. So everybody has a different way of doing their loop in the beginning. Some of them do what they call a magic loop, and I don't know how to make one of those. Like I said, this is done with a double crochet. I'm going to take this out, and then I'm going to show you how to start one of these, because this is done with a circular type one. So everybody has a different way of doing their loop in the beginning. Some of them do what they call a magic loop, and I don't know how to make one of those. Never learned. They tried to teach me, I just can't do it. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you come back here and go through your loop, pick it up, and crochet it through. And then you've got your loop, so you're gonna go through there. It's kind of hard to see it, but you go through and you do the double crochets. You do 1, because you're going through the middle of your loop every time. I just did that wrong. 1, 2, but it won't show. But you're going to do 12 double crochets in the middle of your loop. And I try to catch this string, your little dangle string when you started. I try to catch it when I'm going through, and then when you're done, you pull it tight. And that's what gives you the tight circle here. Okay? It gives you your tight circle on the end. And these go, once you get started on these, you fly through them. I got a lot of these done too. But a hat takes me about a day to do, because knitting takes longer. And I'm just not making my fingers cooperate. I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can tell I'm not used to telling people how to do this. Counting is the biggest thing. 6. Okay. So that's how that goes. And then, like I said, when you're done, you'll take this one. That's less than I needed actually, but you take this and you loop it through. And you catch it and do that. And that gives you your ring, your first round. And then you're gonna crochet 2, 1, 2, and then you go through and you're gonna do, I think that's 2 in each one. So you do 2 in each one. 2, 3. I'll get it yet. And then you're going to skip 1, 2, go into the second one. And you do 2, 3 in that one. But that starts your second row, your second circle. So, like I said, I didn't get enough stitches in there to complete the whole thing. But that's what this will start off as. And then when you get around it, you skip the first one, you go to the second one, and that's what gives you a little dip in here. You're skipping a stitch. That's what gives you. But if you just kept going around and around and around, it just makes a big circle. And you don't, you know, there's different things you can make for different patterns. But those are the basics.
Perfect.
That's it.